learned the word, and
Yeah.
your context in which you learn words is going to be inherently different than the way I learn words. So like as our vocabularies build, the higher and higher they get, like the specifics get, you know, slightly different as you go from person to person to person to person based on like where they were when they learned the word, how they learned it, the context in which they learned it.
Could be.
And I feel like this is where, I don't know, communication starts to break down or maybe happens.
Communication breakdown.
Is it, like, normally we're arguing about like semantic issues, right? Like, I don't think there are too many times where we disagree on the idea that we're talking about, but more like the way in which we're trying to present the ideas.
What's up, people?
Oh, are we on?
I think we're on. Yes, that's true.
Anyway, are we?
But I think of like when you talk about like geniuses, right? Who come along and change how we see the world.
I think
Not
like,
the world itself usually, but like how we explain or understand or, you know.
I think a lot of, you know, like famous philosophers are able
I've been reading a lot about, I'm listening a lot about famous philosophers.
I'm not a Nietzsche kid, and I feel bad, but
You gotta go back, though. You can't start with Nietzsche.
I'm not starting. I just am watching YouTube videos. It's fine.
You gotta watch out for the YouTube videos. They're highly unreliable sources.
What else? What was I saying?
Something about Nietzsche.
What was before that?
I'd say it's nice to meet you, but sorry.
Philosophy, new
I know
ideas.
you can't understand.
Oh yeah. People who are like, you know, they're ideas commonly had by people everywhere, but then
Most
like
places.
the really brilliant people are like the first people who are able to like put these ideas into words.
Or numbers.
Or numbers.
Or
Whatever.
pictures. Or whatever, yes.
I don't know. I feel like most people have the same level of awareness of what's going on, more or less.
Yes.
But their ability to articulate what they're experiencing is the greatest variable from person to person, as opposed to like someone's ability to see what's going on. Could be wrong. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you sound terrible. You're popping it out, cracking it.
It's not bad. Could be worse.
I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
I don't know either. This is what happens when we start the video mid-conversation about nothing. Okay, what were we going to talk about? Respect.
Respect. In Jiu Jitsu, you always have to say every R has an H.
Do I?
If you respect me, you will. If you respect Jiu Jitsu. Respect, what do you want to talk about, Kevin? R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me.
I guess the role of
Respect, go.
What was the role of respect in Jiu-Jitsu? Like, how important is it?
Super important.
Why?
It's the fundamental basis upon which all Jiu Jitsu is based.
What? What do you mean?
Or rests, I should say.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Like, are you talking about like, if you don't respect someone's autonomy, then you won't respect the tap, and therefore Jiu-Jitsu can't exist? Or like, respect is the way that people are able to follow similar rules and abide in the same environment together? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Hot take on respect.
Does respect ever cause problems? Or in your experience, sorry.
Lack of respect.
Can you think of a time where an emphasis on having respect or thinking they deserve respect has caused problems? I think I'm leading it too much.
Yes, I think people can. I think someone's demand for respect can often lead to conflict. If someone thinks they've been disrespected, then I think that can lead to bad training environments and bad results, of course. But in my experience, most of the time, that person who's feeling disrespected is correct that they were disrespected.
Yeah, but is that, and how important is like the need to correct the situation when you felt disrespected? Like if someone disrespects you, do you have to fix that? Do you go out and make sure like someone shows respect to you when they don't. If like you had an adult student, do you have expectations of how they behave around you, and when they don't, do you do stuff, or how do you regulate?
I think the best way to make sure that you get respect is that you respect everybody else. It's like one of those things. It's like my kids. There's a book that my daughter reads about, like the givers and the takers, right? And when you do things that are disrespectful, I'm using disrespect or respect, but I think they use some other term, right? Like if you're hurting other people's feelings, you're taking things out of. They call it the bucket fillers or something. And if I like disrespect you or I make fun of you or whatever it is, I'm taking things out of the bucket, right? But when I do nice things for you, right, I'm putting things in the bucket. But that's good for everybody, right?
How do you balance the need? How do you balance between the need to be honest with someone and the need to be respectful, if sometimes they don't line up?
Well, I think there's a way to be tactful and diplomatic, right? You can say the truth in a very disrespectful way, or you can tell the truth in a respectful way. And I think those, that might be difficult to do in some cases. You know, if you're not good at delivering unwanted news or unwanted opinions, or, what's the word?
Solicited?
Not so unsolicited, because usually they solicit. Certainly if it's unsolicited, you tell somebody they suck or they smell, they're gonna not like that. But I guess my point with the importance of respect is that we are engaged in an inherently violent activity, right? Where we rely on each other to not hurt each other, right? And have some level of restraint, and that is based on a mutual respect of everybody on the mat. And once you lose that respect and people stop respecting each other, then the restraint flies out the window, and then people are just fighting on the mat. And that's when things get out of control.
So it's essential.
So it's not essential, right? You can imagine a situation where there's a lot of disrespect in a school, or even a little bit between 2 or 3 or 5 people, or 2 groups of people, and that can kind of continue on for a while.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like, all of a sudden you just have fist fights and people are, dead on the mat. It just means that there's a lack of respect for each other as training partners that is going to poison the environment of the school eventually, right? Like if it's not addressed, it's gonna kind of grow and grow. And eventually the parties, one or both, or other people as well, third parties aren't even involved, are gonna leave that kind of unpleasant, environment.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about how, like a lot of schools will talk about how we're families and, we're a team. Well, you can't really be a family or a team, or at least a good family, a healthy family, if there's not a lot of respect in there, right? So, and I think also there's respect for yourself, right? Like you have to have some self-respect in how you conduct yourself. So a lot of people that I see who can't recognize like respect to other people because they don't respect themselves. Like if you don't value yourself, you can't value your partners. So you have to have a lot of self-respect.
You have to have a lot of self-awareness to have self-respect.
Yeah. And hopefully you build. I mean, everyone comes in with a different kind of background or, whatever, but hopefully people can develop that over time.
But like, how much time does it take to grow adequate self-respect?
A lifetime.
Well, I'm just saying, like, we're all going to be really short on respect if we're just limited to the amount of respect that we save for ourselves in some cases. If the only way that you can respect other people is if you respect yourself, like, I don't know, I feel like that is a difficult ask for people who typically join martial arts, who are, like, I feel like a lot of people do jiu-jitsu as a way to build themselves up and improve themselves.
Sure.
So I usually would think that that starts with like an idea that there's room for improvement, right? And for some people, that could be associated with like a lack of self-respect.
So I think when you look at it, you have to look at it from two perspectives. You can look at it from the student's perspective. They're looking for that empowerment or that respect or the self-respect, whatever it is that they think they
But
want.
like, how do you, when you start with nothing,
So
right? How do you build it?
I don't know that anybody starts with nothing, but you know, if you're at a good school, you should feel like everyone at the school respects you. Just because you're you, just because you're a human being, you're a student who comes in the door.
But what if they don't like you? You know, you come in.
You can not like somebody and still respect them. I definitely have encountered people who I'm not a fan of them
What
for
if they
whatever reason, but I'll still respect them. I'm not going to be like, oh, I hate your guts and you're a piece of trash.
That would be not very friendly.
Right? I mean, that's the thing about a good, healthy school. It's going to have a certain detente amongst a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. And if everyone is treated and everyone treats each other with self-respect, and then you're going to be okay. Right? That's going to be okay. You're going to be able to train, and people are going to like be able to coexist on the mat in a productive and self or mutually beneficial, you know, manner.
Does it have to be genuine, or is it just like people pretending?
I mean, if you can't, it's kind of like people who have like some form of autism. You know, they have to learn some of the social cues.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to learn the social cues and fake it, learn the social cues and fake it. You're going to be better off than if you express your disrespect in obvious manners to people who. Why is your head all chopped off?
Oh, I don't know. I'm tall.
So, I think you have to have that respect, though. You have to respect other people. And it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they say or that you have to do everything that they do or, you know, any of those things. It just means that you have to treat everyone with a level of, you know, recognition that they're entitled to their opinions.
How do you feel about bullying in the jiu-jitsu community?
You calling me a bully?
No.
What do you mean bullying? What specifically what?
In my experience, jiu-jitsu is good and also bad because the group tends to be self-selecting and self-correcting, right? So a lot of the times you get a guy or a person who comes in who doesn't fit the mentality that people look for in jiu-jitsu, right? He comes in as like, "Brr," and he's like really super aggressive, strong, right? Or maybe he's just like not very nice, right? And then if he does something that makes the group consciousness mad, whatever it is, right? Maybe he rolls too hard with a female or
A white belt or whatever, yes,
yeah,
or a
any
small
sort of
person or
whoever,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Whatever it
It
takes.
could be another person. It could be a small guy who does inappropriate and says inappropriate things to people.
Maybe you just start raining down elbows, right?
Lots of ways to be disrespectful.
Right. So that person ends up rolling with the next guy who, you know, kind of puts it on.
Yes.
You know, and pressure usually well within the rules, unless it's like a grievous thing.
I haven't seen too many all-out fights on that.
Like that's. I mean,
Usually it's what you're talking about. So like somebody just
like,
lays down the shoulder of justice
yeah, like a
on
little,
their face, you know?
more than usual, more than you would usually do against like a new person.
Yes.
Right, where they're following the rules.
Yes.
They're saying.
But they're messing them up.
But like the
Yeah.
purpose isn't
Yeah, yeah.
mutual beneficial training.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Good, bad,
Situational.
situational?
I mean, I've been the nail, I've been the hammer. I'm not the enforcer type, but if I can enforce and I feel
The need.
I will. But you know, there's the idea of bullying that is, I need to. I bully people for the purposes of like making myself feel better.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel good about myself, so therefore I go and beat you up because that makes me feel stronger, right? And then there's the idea of regulation, right? Which is
I think that's
a different intention, right? Like, so if I'm laying the law down on somebody because they are picking on somebody else, or like they're bullying, it's like bullying the bully, right?
Why is
That's
that better?
different.
Why is that different?
I didn't say
Why
it's
is
better.
that better?
Because you're doing it in the defense of, you know, a relatively
So
weaker person.
you're just a sociopath waiting for their
No,
publicly accepted.
you could be that. You could be that, but you could also be the person who says, "Look, what you did was inappropriate, and I'm gonna let you know that this is what it feels like when you bully somebody. This is what it feels like." Now, I don't necessarily agree with that in isolation, right? And I think the important point is that at some point, people need to communicate with their words instead of their shoulders, or whatever, you know, and let that person know that that's not acceptable behavior, right?
But it seems that like a level of what I would call bullying is acceptable in the community, as long as it happens for the right reasons.
I don't think that's bullying though.
Well, then what is that?
I mean, if I go and I bully somebody, like I beat somebody up, like in school, like when I was a kid, you might get a paddle, right? The vice principal might come in and just give you a, you know, or your parents would do it to you.
And that's good. That's
Well,
good.
I don't know if it's good or not. I'm just saying that there's a difference between those two things, right? One is it's a disciplinary thing. It's not they're not doing it to you. They would not have punished you if you had not done the bad thing in the first place. And they're not punishing you to just duplicate the punishment that you've, you know, or the bullying that you did. They're doing it to like dissuade you from doing, to like show you that there are consequences for your conduct.
Yeah.
Now, there are other ways to go about it that everybody may have their own decisions or opinions about whether they're better or worse, but there is a difference between those two things. I don't know, there's a human need to administer justice. And
Is that justice or is that vengeance?
it's a form of justice, it's retributive justice. Right?
Fair. You know more about that than I do, so
No, I mean, it's like there's a human urge. Like it's like I read
Since
something
fairness.
in the news about somebody who hurt somebody else, and I think to myself, that person deserves to be punished for their conduct.
But
That
is
is
it-
unacceptable in a civil society. And if you engage in this type of like vicious, violent, or immoral behavior, you should get punished. That's an instinctual. Like I feel like I'm not sure that's right or wrong, but I'm saying that there's an instinct within humans, and probably most primates,
yeah.
that someone who does bad things gets punished.
Yeah, and should that be celebrated and expressed, or
It has to have. It should have a way of being expressed in as positive a way. So it's like this thing. Like it's not wrong to feel emotions, right? Like we're kind of programmed, all of us to a certain different degree, but we all have like emotions, right? And we all have these ideas in our head, instinctual or intuitive, about what should happen in any given situation. Those feelings are the feelings, but there's got to be a way. That's why we have courts, and we have police, and we have prisons, and we have all of these penal or law enforcement institutions. Because why? If we didn't have them, you know what would happen? People would just start killing each other. Because like, oh, you did this to my cousin or my girlfriend or my wife or my kid, and I can promise you, right? Like as a father, I know that if someone were to try to hurt my children, and the police weren't there, I don't know, like if you couldn't rely on somebody to sort of step in and administer some neutral justice, so to speak, people would take the law into their own hands. And that's what you have in like Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Yeah, but isn't like the person?
Not to pick on those cultures, because we used to have it not too long ago either, right?
Yeah, Wild Wild West.
Probably still have it in certain places.
But like if you decide to enforce what you think is appropriate in the culture after you find them rolling inappropriate with someone, isn't that Wild West personal law enforcement? Like,
Yeah.
So is that a good thing to do? Shouldn't it be directed towards?
Well, there's
central
no,
authority?
there's, you know, you can't call the Jiu Jitsu police when someone's going too hard with somebody else.
Yeah, but you could
the instructors are the Jiu Jitsu police.
Yeah.
And so it's up to the instructor to go to the person or the senior student.
Talk or smash?
I would say talk first.
Then smash?
Well, it depends on what the person
Can we
does.
smash
There's always
it?
like the fair warning.
Can we smash then talk about it?
I would say that the better way is to go and use your words. And then if the person still won't listen, what I really think is that person should be asked to leave. You know, or not allowed to train with people that they get hurt. So if I have a guy it doesn't matter how big they are, but if they're 150 pounds or 200 pounds, whatever it is, and they're rolling with the brand new white belt or the kid or the smaller or the old dude or whatever it is, and they're being too rough, then one way to remedy is to say, you're only allowed to roll with guys or people your own size and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and then fine, you know, problem solved. And if they still are being a jerk, right, and they're still being careless and disrespectful with their partners, then you ask them to leave, right? I mean, I don't know why you shouldn't have just people that piss everybody else off in your academy. That's called a cancer.
Yeah, but like, I have this weird idea that people can change if you give them guidance and
yes,
like
that's
offer
true.
them solutions to how they do stuff.
I agree, but you know, at some point, other people shouldn't have to pay the price for your education.
That's true.
Right? So if you can't modify or adapt your behavior to like a socially acceptable,
especially when it involves injuring people,
then you know, like you should look. Nobody wants to come in and get hurt, right? Because somebody can't control themselves.
So it's like first incidents, it's a coincidence. First it's an accident. Second, it's a coincidence, and third, it's a pattern, so they have to leave, type thing.
I mean, you know, and I think that's better for everyone. And different people, like we talk about goals all the time. Different people have different goals. If you want to have like an all-out war every time, then you know there's other academies where you can go and do that, and they'll be more than happy to have you.
I like war.
Well, I mean for real, like, you know, that person who is going to go and is capable of hurting somebody, even with not necessarily even trying.
War.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I don't like war. I do get upset when I feel like the person I'm rolling with has stopped caring about me as a person entirely.
They're disrespecting you.
Because it's one thing to roll hard, and like I was rolling with Pete, and we would roll, and I like slapped him in the face, and you just check on him, you say sorry, and then you go back to rolling at speed.
Yes.
You know, and then he kicked me in the face or whatever, like, and then he checked on me, and then we kept going hard.
Yeah.
And it was great, but it was like we still
because those things are going to happen in the course of any jiu-jitsu.
But if you don't check on me,
then you're gonna get mad.
Then we're now
because,
that's now the new level.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna check on you either.
That's true.
And
or you know you kind of go in for like a regular. Maybe you're not rolling super hard.
Yeah.
And then it's always the famous thing of like, hey, let's roll light. And then you know.
Yeah. Well, at least now that's almost like a meme where you know.
But it still happens all the time.
Yeah, but like if someone asks you to roll light, you're not.
Even the alarm bells go right off.
Yeah, it's like okay, we're gonna gradually get to that point instead of immediately start going hard.
I mean, it goes all. You know, the idea of respect is that. You know, I respect that. No matter how much better you are or worse than I am, that you still feel pain. You still can get angry. You can still be, you know, you're a human being. Like we talk about gym equipment, treating people like gym equipment, right?
Yeah.
That is disrespectful because you're not a piece of gym equipment. You're not there for me to just like.
But I also kind of want to be a machine, so it's.
Well, it's all fun and games until someone like keeps doing it over and over again.
Yeah, I mean.
And some days you're fine with it, and other days you're like, I'm not having it.
Yeah, I mean, some days it's been like a long time, and I try. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But
you know, the other part of that is like if you're, you know, if you feel like you're going to be hurt by somebody, you know, willingly, intentionally or not, you know, there's self-respect to say, I'm not going to roll with that person.
Yeah, but then that goes into the self-defense training we were talking about. Like, here's my opportunity.
There should, and no training should be involuntary.
I mean, sure, that's true, but like, I feel like it's a good opportunity to learn something.
It can be, but again,
you have to go in.
Depends on your skill level, your experience.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, the guy that, you know, you or I most of the time, I think, unless I get too big, you know, can deal with people who are going really rough. You know, like you kind of develop ways to handle that over time. But if you're like a white belt or a blue belt and the person's just a savage, well,
yeah,
you know, there's no reason for you to get injured. You know, trying to work on your self-defense with that idiot.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, it's hard to say like as a categorical rule, like yes, always, never, no. But I think it always boils down to, you know, a personal decision that everyone should feel free to make for themselves about train with whomever is across from them. And if you ever feel, I think personally, and I hear all different ways. I mean, guys, they don't feel comfortable training with girls, you know, vice versa, you know, whatever it is. People don't want to train with heavyweights don't want to train with the lightweights, people don't want to train with the gi or with the gi. Whatever it is, you know, it's your decision. You know, I don't pay you to train.
I have a question.
They pay me to, you know.
I have a really, this might be weird.
What?
Alright, so.
I reserve the right not to answer.
Okay, this is California, so it probably might not happen, but I have a buddy who is homosexual.
Sure.
And he had difficulty finding places to train sometimes.
Yep.
Because it was like Midwest values.
Sure.
Not right, too cohesive.
Yeah.
If we had a person of LGBT persuasion come in and someone didn't want to roll with them because of that,
Mm-hmm.
do they get to not roll with people? Is it the same thing, or is it like, hey, like this person, you should roll with people, that you have no good reason, in my opinion, to not roll with this person if they're uncomfortable? Like, you could do the same thing with like religious type things, but you know, is there a personal boundary versus group ideal?
I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say I'm not going to get in the business of like ordering people to roll with other people.
Uh-huh.
I'm just not. I mean, like as a categorical rule, like if someone says I don't want to roll with them because they always beat me, right? Like that, I would be like, get in there and train.
Yeah.
You know, like that's good for you.
Okay.
Right? That's not a personal thing, right? Like, oh, they hurt me, or they hurt this other person, or you know what, I don't feel comfortable training with a member of the opposite sex. It's against my religion, or I just feel uncomfortable because I feel my wife doesn't like it or my husband doesn't like it. Like I personally would never order anybody else to train with somebody else if they just said, I really don't want to train with that person. You know, I'm not going to get into, and I wouldn't get into like, you know, okay, your excuse is not good enough.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a principled excuse, right, like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right, like as a principle,
I won't roll.
Like some people are like, they're small. They're like, I don't want to roll with anybody over 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, although, you know, I may ask them, I may prod them a little bit to say, hey, listen, can you roll with the big person? And they're just going to stay on the bottom and you're going to stay on top. So that way you don't have to worry about, you know what I mean? Like I'll try to.
Like finding workable solutions?
Yeah, I'll try to find a workable solution. But if there's not, like I'm not going to train with women.
Yeah.
You know, or I'm not going to train with anybody that's 75 pounds because I have a bad neck, you know, weight difference. Then, you know, like who am I to order somebody else? Again, you know, like when you're the coach of a professional team, right? And it's like you can cut people and you can pick people to be on your team. Well, then you can say, hey, listen, if you're not, it's like, you know, way back when, well, even probably still today, there are people, you know, they like wrestling, right? Like. And this is totally wrong, and I don't agree with it, but you know, you had coaches or league officials who would say like, oh, that kid has dreadlocks, or maybe they're Muslim and so they have to wear something on their head, or Jewish, or whatever it is, and they say, oh, you have to, like there was that video of the kid that they forced to cut his dreadlocks. And you know, that's completely wrong, right? That's totally wrong. But it's exceptionally wrong. It's even worse if that's possible. If they're coming here voluntarily,
Yeah.
you know, they're not trying to be on a team. And I don't have really any real control in that way over somebody. You know, and I want to Christian think of it this way, like, you know, you may have your own objections about somebody. You know, maybe, you know, I'll give you a good example. There are people that, you know, maybe you have a rash, you know? And
Well, that's like, I feel like, I don't know.
hey, you know what? Kevin's just going to go cover that up.
Gross.
He's going to go put on a rash guard, and then you're going to roll with him.
Ugh.
And you'd be like, no, he's got ringworm right there. I'm like, no, I'm not rolling with that person.
Yeah.
Right? And like, some people don't care. They're like, yeah, I don't care about ringworm. Other people are like, no, I'm not, no. If you had ringworm in the last month, I'm out of here.
Gross.
You know, so it's kind of like that to me, you know. You shouldn't be forcing people to roll with other people.
Do you think it's better for everyone to roll with everyone though?
If they can all get along and roll in a civilized fashion,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
If there is interpersonal tension, turmoil, you know, calamity between training partners, do you think it's encourageable to, or should one
Encourage.
yeah, like is doing jiu-jitsu to settle personal problems good, bad?
Like, oh, you guys need to work this
Like,
out. And
we got beef on the grill, we're gonna settle it at Samurai. You know, come one, come all.
No, I think
Everyone circles
that
up.
usually doesn't work out very well.
Why not?
Usually there's a disparity in skill level that gets it gets ugly when there's like
So
people
should
are really going at it.
So should the lesser person just like shut their mouth and
You mean the lesser in terms of the person who's not as
their,
good?
their ability to back their jujitsu up, or words with jujitsu?
You know, none of these things should actually be. You shouldn't think of these things as being like if you and I got into an argument,
Mhm.
right? Like you did something or I did something, and you were like you were being a jerk, you know, and or you know we should not have to settle that. Like that's not going to be settled on the mat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whatever the issue is probably not going to get solved by you kicking my butt or vice versa,
Yeah.
right? It's still going to linger because it's not been addressed. So the right way to handle that is like to have the people, you know, kind of decide to be like talk it out, right?
But
like
what about
solve your problems with some words and
The brilliant catharsis of becoming friends with someone you just got into a fight with. Do you remember being in like elementary school where when you would get into a fight with a kid,
yeah,
and then afterwards you would be friends?
yes, all the time.
And you just like, you're now buddies.
Yes.
And that's great. And we don't have that anymore.
No. Although, you know what, that's not true because, you know, in jiu-jitsu you can kind of like, I think I've definitely rolled with people over the years who in the beginning I don't like, and then over time
Yeah.
you start to like them.
Have you ever had like one really good roll with someone you like didn't really know and like suddenly they were good friends, or someone you didn't like before and it was just like one good one?
What do you mean one good?
Like one good roll. Like one like memorable great roll where afterwards your relationship was forever changed. Or is it always gradual?
I mean, I can think of examples of times that I've trained with people that I was like impressed with them.
Yeah.
You know, whether I was able to beat them or not, or they beat me, I would be like, wow, you know, like I'm impressed with you. You know, either because you know you do something that was unexpected, or you're better than I thought you were, or whatever it is, or you're just as good as I thought you were, or whatever. But then by the same token, I kind of have situations or memories of training with people, and I'm like, you're a jackass. You know, like you just. But in a way, I take that as a compliment too, because I'm like, if you have to be that kind of a jackass with me, then I almost feel like, okay, well,
All right.
you can't handle what I'm doing other than by being a jerk.
Yeah.
You know, okay, that's
I mean,
fine. There's value in dealing with that too.
I used to like it more when I was younger, I think. When like, you know, you're in college and some guy is really, really mad that you're starting to get something. And he's, yeah, bitter. And they start grinding. Oh well. I don't know.
I mean, what I would say is that, and you know, I'm very quiet myself. I don't really talk that much. That's not true. Sometimes I talk a lot, but I think sometimes, you know, you can have a misunderstanding with somebody, and they can be offended by what you do. right? And it's not because you did anything yourself, right? Like you didn't intend. You didn't intend to insult someone. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I grew up outside Philadelphia, so I love the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this conversation with you, and I'm talking about how much I hate people from Pittsburgh. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hate the Penguins. I hate anything about Pittsburgh just because of its sports rivalry. And somebody who just happens to be listening and be like, hey, I'm from Pittsburgh and I love Pittsburgh. And how dare you speak about Pittsburgh in that manner in front of me? It's very disrespectful. I hate you. Right? Philadelphia sucks. You know, screw you. I didn't intend to hurt that person's feelings. I was actually probably just talking trash just because I thought it was just you and me. But I managed to hurt that person's feelings.
Yeah.
In that case, it's not, you know, I could sit there and I could say, hey, screw you. You shouldn't even be listening to my conversation. It's not your business. What's your problem? Right? Or I could just say, hey, I was just talking trash. I didn't really mean to hurt your feelings or offend you. You know, hey, my dad played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. How dare you? He's the best ever. You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, like that's an apology, but then we can go on in our whatever we're doing, you know, in a civilized fashion, you know, and we don't have to like sit there and be like hissing at each other every time we see each other because that jerk's from Pittsburgh and you're from Philadelphia, blah, 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 you know?
Could these types of weird rivalries have positive aspects on groups? Like ever?
I mean, if you have a mild rivalry, right? Like there used to be a rivalry between the different, like the morning, noon, and night classes, and the weekend people and the week
like,
people.
Tongue in cheek, right?
And the different academies, like if you came from the outside academy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember there was one guy who came in, and usually I didn't have a lot of respect. This is probably when I was like a purple belt. I didn't have a lot of respect for some of the other academies, you know, like.
They ain't Henzos.
You're not from the main academy. You suck. And I remember one guy, I mean, I think he was wearing some like Henzo Gracie, I forget where he was from, but it was like his geese said he was from another academy. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna like show this guy what's up.
Yeah.
And he just totally dismantled me. Like, just totally like, and he wasn't even going hard. I mean, he was just like, it was like I couldn't do anything to this dude, and you know, he was like almost nice to me while he dismantled me. And I came back and I was like, and my buddy had been watching the whole thing, and I was like, man, that guy's really goddamn good. Who the hell is he? He's like, oh, he's so and so. You know, he owns that academy. You know, he's been training for a really long time. You know, he's really good. And I was like, okay. You know, like, you know, I gave him my best, and it was not good enough. But you know, I think that is healthy. I mean, I didn't go over there to try to beat him up or anything, and he didn't try to beat me up. But there's that rivalry. I think that I'm going to show them that like my jiu-jitsu that I learned from, you know, John is the best.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. But it's good to have, I think, to have that spirit of competition because jiu-jitsu is kind of built on that idea of eternal competition.
How do you keep it from souring? Like, is there a...
It goes back to the respect.
Yeah.
It goes back to like, hey, like what is your, like everyone should understand, and when you walk in the door. So here's the thing, right? The attitude when people come in the door. You know, if you walk in the door with the attitude of like, I'm gonna show these fools that I'm the toughest guy, right?
Yeah.
That is a bad attitude. That is a disrespectful attitude, right? And when you come in, whether or not you're the toughest guy, and they can school everyone else, it's going to be a very unpleasant experience for everybody. And maybe not for you. Maybe you walk out and you're like, yes, I beat my chest, I win. You know, that purple belt couldn't tap me, and therefore I must be a purple belt. Yeah. You know, or whatever, you know, the logic is in your head. That person is not somebody you want in your academy generally, if they're going to maintain that attitude. As opposed to the attitude of like, hey, we're all coming in, we're all going to train hard, right? Today I'm going to get that guy that's always gotten me, you know, or I'm going to make them work even harder than they usually have to, right? And continually trying to get better, but understanding like we're not really here to hurt or injure, or you know, whether it's physically or socially or emotionally, right? We're all teammates, and so you have to have that attitude of like mutual benefit. You know, we're all as part of a team. We're all trying to make each other better, and the way to do that is to like have respect for everybody and not treat them like equipment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or just like, oh, well, that's just somebody I train with. No, that's a human being. Like that person might have to go to work, or they might, you know, like whatever it is, they have a life, and you should respect them for that too, just for being a regular person.
I guess. Probably.
I mean, you could be in an environment where everyone's at like a pro, even in a pro level kind of camp, I think everyone has mutual respect, or they should, or it's not going to be a very good camp in the long term, right? So,
I mean, I've seen some places where the members were borderline emotionally abusive to each other, but there was
I
still
don't
like,
think that's a healthy environment.
but they would still like, it wouldn't be always that, you know, they would show the respect when it was like appropriate to and when it was time to, and then you know they're friends too, and they get along, and they're not just training partners at this point because they've spent so much time together, and then people, they get comfortable and they start making jokes, and then
well, I mean, there's always that thing where how would I put this? There was a term, it was like a Spanish term I was down in Miami about. I forget what I think it was like. I'm gonna butcher this term, but it's like confianzulo or something like that, where it was essentially like, I can make fun of you because we are brothers, right? Like I can say some really disrespectful stuff because we have some trust between us, right? And we've built that up over the years, right? And or whatever. And so you have a level of a relationship where you're family, and so family says crazy stuff to each other sometimes. And even if I'm really mad and I really do want to hurt your feelings, you know, like you still understand, right? Like you still get it, right? Oh, Rich is emotional, whatever. He doesn't really mean it, you know, whatever. But then you have people who are not part of the family, who are not part of the tribe, who say that kind of stuff, and you're like, we're not. Yeah. You know, so if it's a group of people that have kind of evolved into this, what people from the outside would say is like, that's some crazy emotionally or abusive things to say to each other. Yeah. But you know, if that's acceptable within that group, then I think it's acceptable within the group. Yeah. If it's not, it's not, right? Like then maybe that it can get to the level where maybe some of the members aren't comfortable with that. Yeah. That's hard to judge from the outside looking in.
It's hard when it evolves day by day.
And it's hard, yeah, it's like the boiling frog or whatever. You know, sometimes you wake up and you realize like, oh, I don't like being here anymore. Yeah. You know, that's not cool. And, you know, I think I don't like to be belittled, right? Like I don't mind being corrected. I don't mind having somebody tell me like, you're not doing this correctly, or you need to get better at this, or you're whatever it is, you need to lose more weight, or you need to get stronger, whatever it is. You know, like that's fine, that's constructive in a sense. But if someone's like, you're a piece of shit, why do you even show up here? You're garbage. Like that is unnecessary. Like that doesn't actually help me.
Bro, you pay dues here, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, are you kicking me out of the school or not? Like, and so, you know, some people think, and here's the thing, it goes back to like we were talking about coaches yelling at players. Yeah. Some people are raised, like, their coach, it's like, I always think of, whenever I see a kid who acts out, right, who yells at or bullies another kid, it's often like they're getting it from somewhere else.
Cycle of abuse.
And it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, hey, maybe you know you had a coach or a parent or a big brother or you know whatever, a sibling or a cousin who that's how they kind of tried to motivate you, and maybe it came from a good place. Yeah. And so that's the way that you were successful. Like you did great things, and so you think, or you just intuitively
you're familiar with it.
You just do it. Because that was what you had, and you did well with that. That worked for you. Yeah. And so that's kind of how you coach or how you encourage somebody, right? Like, yeah, really mean. If they really ask them, they'd be like, no, I'm just trying to make them better. I'm just trying to give them some tough love. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yesterday I was rolling with Pete, and he did something to me that was really, really good. And I was like, oh, that was awesome. He's like, thanks. And I said something along the lines of like, I didn't expect you to do something so good right then. And like, I meant it nice. Like, I was trying to be like, you know, you totally subverted my expectations there. You did exactly
what
you
usually suck. Is what basically you're saying.
But like,
I didn't expect someone who sucked as bad as you to do something as clever as that.
I could, as soon as it came out of my mouth, like I paused and I was like, I know that it could be interpreted that way.
Yeah.
And he was just like, thanks. And then we like kept rolling, and it was great. And I don't know, I just really.
What's another thing where people, you know, sometimes you can give backhanded compliments. Yeah. Unintentionally,
and people get
And some
upset.
people get really mad, but hey, you're pretty good for a girl. Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you just stopped at the pretty good, that would be fine, but
I accidentally said my brother-in-law was my favorite brother-in-law, which could be a backhanded I know more than one brother-in-law though. That was in my head. I know other people who are brother-in-laws. He's the best. But, unless
Yes.
you know that fact about me,
Yes.
you might think that I was saying something backhanded.
I often say that to my sister. I say, you're the best sister
That's a good one.
I never wanted.
Yeah, so it's weird, like, miscommunications can happen, but a lot of the times, like, the way you choose to respond to someone's words, you can also reinterpret the message however you want.
That's true.
And if you only want to see the positive part of the message,
You're going to have a happy life.
and it's probably going to annoy the other person too.
Yeah, that's even better. True.
Yeah,
True.
I don't know. It's tough. People are weird. Especially, like, just if you see someone day in and day out, day in and day out, I don't know, eventually you're going to catch them on a bad day. And then you're going to exchange some words, or maybe they catch you on a bad day. And sometimes it can feel easy to walk away from the relationship because you don't want to confront the anxiety of having to talk to the person.
Yeah.
And totally understandable, right? Like, even if you think that you weren't wrong, just like having to interact with someone who thinks that you're a not good person is very uncomfortable. But I think especially like if you only have a small number of training partners, it's worth taking the time to try and reestablish contact and communication. Like sometimes it is just like a huge misunderstanding. Sometimes it's not.
This is true in like kind of relationships and jobs, like with your boss or coworker or whatever.
But training partners are like different because like they know you in a way that.
That's true. But what I'm saying is like you can take a general approach to things where you can understand. Like so, what kind of the way I look at it is to say, I have lots of things bug me. I'm old, so I get cranky, right? And so that I could express like there are people that are like they're cranky and they have like their pet peeves and they just will not stop telling you that they hate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like this constant drip of like complaining, right? And that person's just being honest, right? Like I hate it when you I don't know, pick your nose. Like I don't know, like make it up, right?
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, like I hate it when people don't hold the door. I hate it when people don't hold the door for other people or for me, right? We talked about that yesterday. Now I'm not going to get into a fist fight with somebody because they don't hold the door, right? But the other part of it is like also thinking like what is the benefit or the detriment for any particular course of conduct, right? Like I want to train, I want to get along with people, and so like yeah, maybe that person annoys me in some case, but like I'll just be like, look, hey, this really annoys me. I'm sorry, I was in a bad mood, like forgive me, right? Are we cool?
Especially like
Don't let it fester.
if you've invested 100 hours in another human being who has an insight into your game and has an understanding that another person can't really replicate.
Give them another 100 hours.
But like, that's valuable, I don't think people should be so quick to throw those relationships.
Well, look, here's the other thing, right? Like I can think of probably if you give me time, think of things where I'd be like, that is unforgivable, right? Like there's certain things that somebody could say and I'd be like, that is not cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I told you this story about the t-shirt that I have.
Oh, I thought you were trying to make a metaphor earlier with your double friend. Never mind. You told another story that was very analogous to this one. You want to tell this story?
T-shirt story?
Yeah.
So I had this friend, we were down at a tournament, I think it was Pan Am's, and I had this t-shirt and it had like this German cross on it, right? It was like an Iron Cross type of t-shirt. And it was like a Jiu Jitsu shirt, I forget what, maybe Corral or something like that. Or I think it was Corral. And anyway, I'm wearing this shirt. I like this shirt. I thought it was a cool shirt. And my one friend was like, "What's up with that shirt?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, you know, that's like German, like Nazi stuff." I'm like, "No, this is not Nazi. I'm not into Nazis, right? Like, this is just German. Like, this is I don't know. It kind of looks German, I guess, but there wasn't anything German on it." And I was just like, "No, dude, that's not." And then I was like, and I could have, and I'm like, "Why does this offend you?" He's Jewish, and does this offend you? He's like, "Yeah, it kind of does. Like, I don't like to, it makes me uncomfortable. We're walking down the street and you're wearing this shirt. It's kind of like you're like pro-Nazi Germany." And I was like, "Well, that's not what I meant at all, you know?" And at that point, I could have been, and I like that shirt. I thought it was a cool looking shirt. And I think looking back at that, I could have been like, "Dude, that's your problem.
Yeah.
That is your problem. You are the one who is attributing whatever it is in your mind you're projecting onto me, because that's not my intent," which it wasn't. And
if he was a white belt, would you have done the same thing?
no, because I don't talk to white belts. They don't exist to me. No, we were both like purple belts, I think, at that point.
That's the thing. You kind of.
But we were friends. No, we were friends. We had trained a lot, and this guy, I liked him. You know, we were like in the same hotel room, and we, you know, trained all the time. We went on a trip together with a bunch of other people. And, you know, in my mind, I was like, all right, I'm just never going to wear this shirt again. Because why?
Because you respect this guy.
Because I'm like, I don't want, this person is my friend and my training partner, and I don't want him to feel uncomfortable in anything that I'm doing, right? And it's no real big sweat off on my back. It's no big sacrifice to just not wear this shirt around him. And then I was like, I should probably never wear this shirt again. If he feels, you know, one of my best training partners, if he feels uncomfortable around me wearing this shirt, then there's probably other people who aren't my friends who felt uncomfortable too. And I don't want to ever get mixed up and insult or offend people who, you know, are going to feel uncomfortable because I'm wearing this shirt. So I just threw the shirt away. And then I told him that. I said, "Hey, listen, man, I'm really sorry. I'm glad that you said something to me, right? And that you were, you know, like you were comfortable enough at least to tell me that I was offending you." He wasn't saying you're wrong. He was not, but this is the thing. He wasn't like, "You're a dick and how dare you, you Nazi skinhead." Like he wasn't attacking me. You know what I mean? He was just letting me know. He was asking me and letting me know that he felt a certain way. And so that's what I mean by respect, right? He didn't assume that like I had some
Nazi.
He was just saying like, "I feel uncomfortable with that shirt. Like that bothers me."
I have a question.
Yes.
All right. So there's a very heavy social stigma against like Nazi symbolism and
Yes.
stuff. So what if your favorite shirt had like a clown on it, and this
Yes.
guy was just like deathly afraid of clowns?
I mean, I wouldn't wear it around him.
But would you?
And then I'd make fun of him. And no, then I would show him in like a full clown outfit.
But like
and try to jump out and scare him.
In this situation where it's just a personal issue instead of like a society-wide, like people thinking you're a Nazi accidentally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that either. But like, if it's just like one guy's personal issue, would you have the same approach to it? Like,
I mean, if this is my friend and this is like they're telling me that I'm doing something that makes them uncomfortable, I'm gonna, if I can, you know, if they just say like, "Rich, I feel uncomfortable around people who wear glasses," I mean, I'm like, I can't help you, you know, like I need to wear my glasses. But
you wouldn't get LASIK?
yeah, not for my friend.
Okay.
If I haven't already gotten it, I'm not gonna get it for you. But I mean, I think that's just an example of, you know, I could have just been like, "Dude, you need to like grow up."
But then like you would be out a training part. I don't know. Maybe I guess it could.
But things would have been funny.
It would have been weird.
It would have been weird.
It's weird
For no good reason.
for no good reason.
And I, you know, like, and I've seen things go the other way. Like I remember there's another example. It's a little more. It's a different type of thing. But I remember the situation where somebody would come in. They were very good, high level competitor, and really rough, really rough with people. And somebody else was not as good, right? Did the right thing, spoke up, and the better guy was like, but he said something in a kind of a disrespectful way. He did not approach it. He was like, "Hey, stop being an asshole.
Yeah.
You can't come in here and do that shit like that." And that did not go over so well.
What happened?
I don't want to give away too much of the story.
What? This is the topic. This is like,
I mean, you know, there was never. It essentially.
Was he offered a role?
Was he offered a role?
A role. Would you?
He was offered a role.
Okay. Did he accept that offer?
Who? Which one?
The smaller one.
He did not.
That's a smart
That's what I
move.
heard. That's what I heard.
It's a smart move.
So, but then you're cooked.
What do you mean cooked?
You know, if I come up to you and I'm disrespectful to you, even if I'm right, right?
Yeah.
But so the thing is not that you're right or wrong. The thing is, how do I address you, or whether it is my place to address you at all, right? So,
but like, what's right is right.
yes, but there are going to be personal consequences for you, or there could be.
One should be aware of them.
You should be careful.
But yeah, I guess it's true.
Right? So whether you're doing, and I think the person did the right thing. They were coming from a good place, but they kind of picked a fight that they couldn't win, and then they knew they couldn't win.
It doesn't sound like the right thing, though.
Well, it's the right thing, but the wrong way.
It sounds like the wrong thing.
Like well, you should. I mean, I think there was maybe a better way to handle it. And again, I'm hearing this third hand, so I was not there for this. But
what do you think would have been the better way?
I think the better way would have been to talk to somebody that was much better and higher up.
Like, do you mean like politically or technically? Like
Both.
Okay. Like both able to smash and talk.
I think it shouldn't be right. So the answer is not smash or talk. It's someone should be able to go to you and say like, "Hey, I should stop doing that."
Well, I think it's like I should be able to talk to you, and I have smashing to back me up if I have to.
Maybe.
We've got it. Like
Maybe.
we have this conversation with the mutual understanding that we both have these skills, and we should talk to each other in a very specific way, so that we don't end up getting violent.
I think that if at the very minimum, you have to be very diplomatic when you address people that can beat you up.
That should be
Easily.
true in all cases.
In
If
every case.
If you're at a McDonald's ordering,
Yes.
you should be polite to
Yes,
the person who you
always.
think could kick your
Always.
butt.
Anybody. You should be polite to everybody.
But especially the people.
You don't always know who can kick your butt. You don't always know
That's
who's
true.
got
But you can really like look for the ones who probably can.
You should be super nice to them.
And you don't know when they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
never know.
But
small people are also.
The idea is, I think that what I'm trying to say is, you should think before you talk, or say something to somebody. And if you're gonna say something to them, you should say something very nice that is not conceived of as any kind of threat, right? Like, you shouldn't do this or else, because if they say or else what, you're gonna be at a loss, and it's gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
So the idea is, you know, this goes to the idea of like, kind of the bullying and self-regulating, right? Like you should kind of know your place within the hierarchy, and if you are if you're not at the high end, you need to go talk to somebody at the high end and see how to deal with it in a constructive way that is not going to antagonize people unnecessarily, even if they're being a total dick, even if they are being totally inappropriate.
What do you do when it's the instructor?
Go to another school.
Fair.
You know, I mean, you should be able to go. You shouldn't You shouldn't be so scared of your instructor. If you are so frightened of talking to your instructor, you're not in a good place. If you feel like, hey, if I tell my instructor X, and they're gonna they may threaten or punish me on the mat, that is not a good school for you. You should go somewhere else. I mean, at the worst, the instructor might say, you're an idiot and no, you're wrong, but there should be no real physical consequences for you.
Yeah, probably not.
Because you asked even if you ask a dumb question, nobody should be getting beat up because you ask a dumb question or you raise a concern, even if you're totally off base.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if you're at a place where you are so afraid that the instructor is going to or whatever, one of the senior students or whatever are going to hurt you or ostracize you or whatever. I mean, that's not a good place.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will say, maybe they're just in the wrong place to begin with, and the instructor can just say, I don't think this is a good place for you. If you go to, primarily MMA gym and you say, I think that guy hits me in the face too hard, they're probably gonna tell you, maybe MMA is not for you.
You know, this is what we do here. We you know,
Hit people in the face.
people hit each other in the face hard at times, right? So, I mean, jiu-jitsu is a contact sport. People are going to go a little rough. People are going to lose control sometimes. You know, if it's not ill will or malevolent, or even just, you know, a person just can't control themselves, right? If a person just can't control themselves, that's, you know, another thing that needs to be dealt with on a different way. But yeah, I mean, I remember I've had this more than once where, you know, parents like, oh my kid was rolling and another kid choked him.
Yeah, cool.
And I was like, that's
Nice.
what we do here.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, what are you asking me?
Please, if you have children and you sign them up for jiu-jitsu, look up what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe even tell your kid. You don't have to, but at least yourself kind of know. It would help us out.
No, and I get it. Like, I'm laughing now. I understand. Like, it's difficult as a parent to watch your kid get choked out and get their arm. Not he didn't go to sleep, but you know, it was like I was like watching it.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't like he was off in the corner unconscious. Like, I was watching the whole thing, but yeah, it wasn't pretty, and he wasn't tapping. And I think I went and stopped him at some point.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, yeah, he needs a tap.
Yeah.
Right? And he was fine. He was fine. Nothing bad happened.
Kids are bendy.
But you know, like, she was understandably upset, right? Like, I get it, but we're doing jiu-jitsu. You know, sometimes, like, kids, they get thrown, they get the air knocked out of them. Sometimes they get hurt. You know, they're crying.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to watch as a parent, but like,
It's part of it.
this is jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
right? And that's why we have the waivers, and not the waivers, but
Mats.
that's why mats and we have rules, and
Yeah.
so.
Crying's normal. I've cried so many
I
times.
cry a lot, man.
It's-
Crying's good for you.
It's cathartic. Sometimes it's really embarrassing, but usually it's cool. I don't like to do it in front of people, but it happens.
You shouldn't be ashamed of crying, man.
I mean,
I'm not ashamed to cry.
I could be ashamed of whatever I want to be ashamed of.
All right. See you guys later.